So we're gonna start with the obvious, the first team. I'm gonna start with the Sixers. I'm gonna make this really quick and simple. So if you guys don't know, the retainment rules basically go as followed. You can retain up to 3 people before the expansion. We're not sure who's going to be in the expansion, um, so we're beefing. Uh-oh. So anyway, so prior to the expansion, you can retain up to 3 people. If you retain up to 3 people, you have to sacrifice a fourth round pick. It's different than last year. Last year you had to sacrifice a third round pick. This year it's a fourth round, which in a way is good. I think that's fair. But hang on, guys, I gotta turn this audio down on my freaking computer because it's gonna annoy the hell out of me. It's too distracting. So you have to sacrifice a pick before if you decide to do it, you have to. Damn it! I'm getting follows and I cannot change. I have to turn off the alerts. Sorry guys, this is gonna annoy the hell out of me because I can't be having all these alerts pop up while I'm talking. There we go. I don't know, but whatever. Anyway, guys, I just have to check in the stream. Just give me 1 second, guys. This was kind of last minute, the stream, because I decided I'm not gonna have enough time to upload this video. Okay, it's not popping up in the stream. Good. I just want to make sure it wasn't popping up, guys, so I apologize. So, my first team is going to be the 76ers GC. If you guys don't know, if you decide to retain 3 people, you have to, basically, you have to retain, you have to give up a fourth round pick to retain 3 people before the expansion. So, my prediction is I think the Sixers are going to retain 3 people before expansion. I think they bring back Radiant, who's been a superstar in the league. You bring back Steez. He's just that vocal leader, that guy who's just an overall. I think that he's just someone that you want to have a part of your organization, regardless of the season that he might have had. You still bring back Steez. I think you bring back Breadwinner. Breadwinner's an all-around great defensive player, good player. Maybe there's been issues with his personality in the past, but you still bring this guy back. He's a talented guy. And then you bring back ZDS, of course. I think that's been like the bread and butter of this team. Is ZDS is a guy that's always seemed to work well with this system, and I think he's been very successful in Philadelphia. So I think you bring him back. Unfortunately, I do think they let go of User Pick. I think User Pick didn't pan out to be that lockdown that they wanted. It's good, Fong. But I just don't think that he panned out to be that lockdown that they wanted. So I think they go away from User Pick. I think they also let go of Tucker. And I think that's what the Sixers are going to end up doing. The next team I'm going to go to, it's going to be the Blazers. What's good? The next team I'm going to go to is the Blazers. I think the Blazers are a team that's very interesting because obviously they just recently did a trade. I think that with this trade, they're going to definitely hold on to Bash. Because, I mean, obviously you wouldn't trade for a player and let them go like that. But they're going to hold on to Bash. I think they hold on to, it's tough between Majestic and Lavish because they're both talented players. Obviously, I think Majestic has a lot bigger of a reputation in the community, and maybe there's a good chance that Majestic gets retained, or maybe they do some type of trade to hold on to him. I'm not sure. But I think that with this, it's going to be tough between Lavish and Majestic, but I think Lavish has been there for years. I think that he deserves to be retained before Majestic just because I think Lavish has shown a lot of success and a lot of growth over the years. So I think you bring back Lavish no matter what. The next one is going to be Shots, obviously, because you just traded for him. You do that prior, and the same thing with Walnut. I mean, Walnut's an MVP. You have to bring back those 3, and I think the fourth is just going to be very interesting. We haven't gotten information. We haven't actually gotten information on what pick you'll have to give up, but regardless, I think that I think this is how it's going to pan out. I think you're going to have Bash, Shots, Walnut, and then Lavish will be that 4th guy after the expansion. So let's move on to the Bucks. Obviously, you guys know that Bucks GG. They have the Rookie of the Year candidate and top MVP candidate, Reg, someone who's been very successful this year. So you're obviously bringing back Reg. You bring back A-Rooks before the expansion because he's been one of the best shooters in the league, shooting guards, all that stuff. But after that, I think it goes. Obviously, you bring back Plondo. Plondo's been, that centerpiece. You picked him top in the draft in season 2. He had a great season 2. His season 3 wasn't as good, but it's still. I think he kind of came back later on in the year and started performing. And I think you bring back Idris. I think it makes sense to bring back Idris. Idris is a guy that I think has proven to, keep his spot in the league. I think he's really been overall just. He's a very versatile player, I guess you can call him. He's kind of been everywhere. He's someone that I think that is like, when you're talking about like people when they talk about versatility, I think that he's definitely one of those people that we have to bring up in the conversation. That is probably one of the most versatile in the league, and you bring back. Unfortunately, I don't think they bring back Cha-Ching and Ty because as of right now, you have to bring back 4. So maybe they decide to go back in the draft and take somebody. I don't know, but as of right now, I think I think they do retain 4 people. It makes sense. This was the best season in Bucks GG history. Sorry, guys, I had to check my stream, make sure my sound was good. But it makes sense. It makes sense to bring back these 4 guys. I think that this is the obvious choices, in my opinion. And I just think that if you don't bring back these guys, I would be questioning a lot of things up there in Milwaukee if they don't do this. Next team we're going to jump to is Cavs Legion. I think Cavs Legion is another team that's very interesting. You look at Cavs Legion, you have Strainer, who's had an outstanding year, in my opinion. Obviously, there's been a couple internal issues with the Cavs this year, so we're questioning a lot of things on what's going to happen. Regarding Larry, there's been some rumors that he might be traded. There was a trade that did almost go through, but because of some disagreements and not wanting to go to a certain destination, I guess, the trade did not happen. These are all rumors, nothing that was true. This one, yeah. It's not looking good. That's interesting. I think that this was one of your best seasons, and like I said, I think that it would make sense to bring you back. I think that the Bucks have had their best season in history, so it would make sense to bring you back after having a successful year. You wouldn't. I don't think the problem is you can't just keep changing things like that. I think that you bring back Idris and that you go with the Bucks, but with the Cavs are going to have a culture change. Obviously, they brought in Zumrock, gave him a bigger role with drafting the players. He's actually been a part of their success in the past, and he's going to be a part of their success coming into the future. I think that Zumrock is definitely a good pickup for them. He's a very knowledgeable guy, have the talent in the community, despite not really being as involved as he used to be. I think he still has a good knowledge of guys, and he can read whether or not a player is good or not. Obviously, you go with Strainer, because Strainer's a year. Got a 2K, who is an all-defensive player, probably one of the better defensive players in the league. You go with Larry Pryor, just because Larry has built up this. I think he's still a great player. He can play multiple positions. Regardless, if you keep him and you trade him in the expansion or you trade him later, either way, I'm not sure what's going to go on with Larry. After the expansion, I still think you bring back Trey. Trey's been good. Unfortunately, I don't think you bring back Dozer or Loke. I don't think Loke necessarily had much of an opportunity to show his skill set. He's still a very good player. And Dozer kind of showed up late in the year, starting to come back later on and show what he can do. But it's still, I think that we keep having this inconsistency with Dozer in the league versus retail. And I think that it's kind of hard to hold on to Dozer at this point because we need something to change because the Cavs Legion team just had the worst season in their entire franchise history. So there's definitely going to be some changes there in Cleveland. So I think that's who the Cavs are going to retain with prior and after the expansion. Next team we're going to move on to is Celtics Crossover Gaming. So Celtics Crossover Gaming, this is a very interesting expansion. Retainment process for these guys because I think that there's been a lot of disagreements between Fav and his organization over the years. Obviously, they've kind of rebuilt that over time. Obviously, him and Rico have a strong relationship. This team is built from a lot of Fav's prior relationships and friendships he's had over the years with the Slight Work team. But I think that there might be a time for change. There's been a lot of conversation about trades going on. Before the Mama on that man trade happened with the Kings, there was rumors that Fab was going to be there instead of Mama. But obviously that trade went through with Mama. It was more appealing. I think it was a great trade by the Blazers to do. I think the Blazers robbed them, but that's just my opinion. Anyway, so with Celtics Crossover Gaming, you have OFAB. I think that's going to get retained. I think Mel is still just that vocal and guy. That's their guy. You know what I mean? He's been there for years. He's proven why he should be there. I think you still retain him before the expansion. I think you still bring back Otto, regardless of. I think he kind of had a down year. I think that a lot of their struggles came through that, but I think also it was just an overall just. I think it was just the mentality or the what's the word I want to look for. It just didn't feel right up there in Boston. Boston had a lot of promise and just didn't show up. I think they lost all confidence and. It just was tough for them. But don't be surprised if we still see a trade happen in expansion, possibly. But like I said, I'm not sure. It's definitely going to depend on a lot of factors. Maybe Fab stays there. Maybe he kind of rebuilds, gets back up. But also I think that they're going to bring back FTW after the expansion because I think FTW was showing a lot of promise, and he showed that if we do trade Fab, we still have FTW who can perform because before the Celtics suspended Fab. They were 1-11, but after that, they finished the season very strong with FTW. So I wouldn't doubt if FTW stays with Boston and they do something to bring him back. So that's definitely awesome, though. If that does happen, I think that's amazing for FTW if it does happen. Next team we're going to talk about is Gen G. The Gen G Tigers are another team that I think is very, very interesting. I think it's going to be really, really going to shock a lot of people on who they decide to retain. Obviously, number one person is going to be Kai. Kai had a great early set to the year. I think he kind of got tired after a while. Not tired, but I think that he kind of slowed down a little just because the season was just there was nowhere for the season. He kind of just gave up in a way, in my opinion, based off of the way he was playing. I think that it was just there was too much workload put on him for what he had to do for that team. Chernup, I mean. I think that you still bring back Chernup. Chernup has obviously been a good player over the years, good defensive player. I don't really know. I didn't really watch much of Gen G, I'll be honest with you guys. So, but I know about Gen. Gen was playing very well. Somebody that I think shocked a lot of people on how he performed. He performed beyond what people expected. I think that he's earned a spot back on the team for next season. Obviously, you have Killy and Deadeye. A lot of people will say that they think that Killy and Deadeye should be back. But at the same time, I feel like we didn't really get to see much of the actual Killy. I think Killy never got a chance to really be a guard. I think the best situation for him is to go on another roster where he can show that he's a guard. He's not really a center or power forward, whatever you want to put him at. It's not really his position. He needs to be playing that guard position, but it didn't work out. It seem that there was really much use for Killy on this roster. Deadeye obviously had a couple issues. We didn't really see the Deadeye that we've seen in the Pro-Am scene. And Flack came in, obviously, to replace, I always forget his name. Some people in the chat might know who he is. He had to replace the player that Gen G couldn't bring from overseas, obviously because of COVID. But Flack did his thing. He performed well. I don't think he had enough time to really showcase why he should be still there. Not that he did bad, but he just didn't really have much to work with. Kind of just came in and stepped into the role for a little bit. But I think that this is going to be what it looks like. I think it's going to be Kai, Chernup, and Gen. I don't think they're going to do anybody after the expansion. I think this is kind of the rebuild. I think it's going to fall a lot under Len and Kai. I think Kai's going to really take the ship and sail forward to what he wants. So I really think this is going to be controlled by Kai a lot when it comes to decision making. Next team we're going to talk about is Grizz Gaming. So Grizz Gaming is another team I find very interesting. I actually don't know what picks they have in the 2021 draft because they obviously did that goofy trade where they had a lot of picks involved. So there might not be a possibility for them to retain a certain player. They might not be able to retain a fourth player. I'm not sure. I'm sure that some guys outside, there's people who probably do know. I think it's going to be Vandy 100%. There's no way you let go of Vandy. Authentic has obviously been a great player over the years. You bring back Authentic, you bring back Goofy, and I think that you bring back I put DDD double. What the hell? But you bring back D double. It makes sense to. I think that D double has been a good. He hasn't been a great. Some people have their opinions about him. I think he's been a decent player. Some people think he was the worst player in the 2K League, which is not necessarily a bad thing to say. But I think that overall, though, D-Double did prove me wrong. He was a little better than I thought he was. But I just think that they also bring him back because of his relationship with Lang Whitaker. I think that that's a strong relationship, and sometimes relationships can bring you a far way in this league. So I definitely think that D-Double is going to be back. I definitely think Vandy, Authentic, and Goofy 100%, especially since all the stuff they gave up for Goofy. There's no way you would not bring him back. J-Rod, I think that was part of the struggle, is J-Rod kind of brought the team down into a lot of situations. They brought in Potts Jackson. I think they did that I really am not sure about that trade. What was the point? I can't remember if there was picks involved or not. I think there might have been some picks involved. I actually had to look at the trade real quick. I really don't understand the trade. I don't think they bring back. Think they bring back Potts. Bring back Potts. I think that was more just a trade to make Lav feel like happy. I guess I'm not sure. But that's definitely a trade I didn't really understand, but it happened anyway. But anyway, let's move on to the Hawks. The Hawks are the next team in line. The Hawks, I think, are an interesting team because we know there's a lot of internal issues here. This team has never had a successful season. They actually have never won any money inside of a tournament ever in the 2K League. I have a video. I'll explain all the salaries and all the teams that have never won money in tournaments. There's actually 3 of them in the league that have never won a single dollar, ever in any type of tournament winnings. Fun fact for you guys to know. But with the Hawks, I think they're going to retain 3 people. I think they go with BP, obviously, because BP is probably one of the greatest dribblers I've ever seen play the game of 2K. BP is a guy that's just an outstanding scorer. His passing needs a little work, but he's been overall just a great talent. You got Kel Mav, somebody who's another talented player, but has seemed to have a lot of relationship issues with a lot of other players in the league. We've seen him be traded to several franchises and seen some issues, but Kel Mav's still a good player. But like I said, BP has mentioned about the possibility of seeing Kelmav move. That's something that I think that he's kind of whispered under his breath in a way that he kind of wants to happen. So we could see a possibility of Kelmav being traded during the expansion. Depending on, it really depends though on how much control BP has, but there's a good possibility that happens, in my opinion. Then you have Lee, somebody that a lot of people were kind of shocked that got picked over Slaughter in the draft, but he actually really performed this year. Did a good job. Kind of proved his place in the league. Showed to be one of the better centers in the league this year. One of the better rookie centers this year in the league. But overall, I think that this roster needs a full reset. You could see Mr. Styles possibly come back, but I really don't see why you would. I don't think Styles did anything outstanding. I think you kind of need to change things up. You kind of need to start from scratch and reset. So I think that with this, I think that you're going to see a lot of big moves, a lot of changes, and I just definitely expect a whole new roster coming into next year for the Hawks because this season was just not good. And it's just, there needs to be something that needs to be changed because Hawks have never won any money in the tournament and they've never had a winning season. So I think it's time for change there in Atlanta. The next team we're going to talk about is my favorite team, Heat Check Gaming. Obviously, with Heat Check Gaming, we have high expectations of them. Heat Check Gaming is a team that I find very interesting because you look at the roster, you expected a lot of good things out of this team. A lot of sometimes obviously people kind of take names too far and think that names is that's all that matters, but. Glenn, obviously, I think is going to get another chance with Heat Check Gaming, despite his poor performance this year. Shifty's he was still one of the better lockdowns in the league, despite the Heat's record. Hotshot, obviously one of the greatest players ever in the 2K League, still performed in my opinion. Still a great player. He'd never let go of that guy. He's a Miami guy too, so I think that regardless, he's there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts that he'll ever move. So I think that it's going to be Hotshot, Shifty, and Glenn. I don't really think this is a hard one. I don't really think I have to go much in detail. Obviously, you have Deeds, Peroxide, and Delusional, who are still guys on the team, of course, but I just don't see, after this bad season, I think that Famous is just looking to push the reset button and forget about all that. And I just don't see any way that we see anybody besides these 3 players come back. So I think that there's definitely could be a possible trade maybe. I don't know. But I think that they keep these guys. I think they just try to build off of this and try to see what they can do coming into the next season. Next team I'm going to jump into is Hornets Venom GT. Hornets Venom GT is a team that I think that, it's going to be really tough for them coming into this offseason because there's a good chance that they might have to trade Type. Depends, if that relationship's been fixed. Obviously they had some issues last season where Type wasn't playing for a while. Maybe they've healed those wounds. I don't know. Maybe not. But with this roster, obviously you have Snubby Exposum, who I think are great, guards. Exposum was a higher pick. Didn't, he still did well, but he didn't live up to that top pick, I guess you could say. But he's still a great player. You also had Zay Bucks, who was probably one of the best power forwards in the league. I think that a lot of people kind of saw that coming after what he did in Dallas during that tournament that they hosted. He kind of got his play, get to showcase himself there. I think they definitely are gonna retain Zay Bucks and Snubby and Type prior, and then try to keep Exposum afterwards. Maybe there's a possibility Exposum goes in the expansion, but at the same time, he might go under the radar because it depends how many teams we get for expansion and how many picks there are. But definitely going to be an interesting expansion depending on how many teams there are. Next team we're going to move on to is going to be Jazz Gaming. You think they keep Type? I definitely think they keep Type. I'll go back to that real quick and explain it. I definitely think they keep Type. From a trade perspective, there's no way you let go of Type. You have to, if you're gonna, Type is too valuable of a piece in the 2K League to just let go. You have to trade him. I think that if anything, if you bring him back, you trade him. You know what I mean? They're gonna retain him, but to keep him, I don't know. He did play at the end of the year, and maybe they hash things out. Maybe they sit down and talk, or maybe it doesn't work and they trade him. Regardless, they're gonna retain him no matter what. If they don't, then that's the stupidest thing you could possibly do. Next team I'm going to jump to is going to be Jazz Gaming. Jazz Gaming is an interesting one because it's like you got Splashy, who is obviously a great point guard this year, one of the better rookie point guards in the conversation of possibly being the rookie of the year, between him and Reg, but obviously Reg got it. Splashy's definitely someone you retained prior. You got to keep compete. He's been your guy since season 1. He's a vocal leader. Just everything you need for a franchise, everything you want for a franchise is in compete. And then obviously I have Rhea and Beezus. I think 100% Lottie goes in the expansion because I think that the three they're going to hold prior is going to be Splashy, Compete, and Rhea. So I don't think there's any way that Lottie doesn't go in expansion unless Lottie pulls his ZDS campaign. Obviously ZDS did his thing last year. I just don't see, I don't see any way Lottie gets, back to this team unless they do some crazy blockbuster trade. We could see a first-round pick be traded for Lottie. I think that is a good possibility, and maybe we see Lottie back on the team. But like I said, I think that this is what's going to happen. I think you get Splashy, Compete, and Rhea, and then you bring back Lord Beezus, because I think Lord Beezus has proved himself in this league. He was one of the better power forwards this past year. He played the role very well. Get on my level, didn't really get much of a chance to showcase what he could do. So hopefully he goes back out in the draft and gets picked back up, because I think he's a very good player regardless. But like I said, I think they're going to lose Lottie in the expansion. The next team we're going to jump to is Kingsguard Gaming. Kingsguard Gaming is a team that obviously went through a whole entire franchise change, I guess you can call it. I wrote King Guard Gaming. Oh my god, I've spelled that wrong. Whatever, forget about it, guys. So Kingsguard Gaming, current roster, they have Mama. They just traded for Ball Like Seam, Crush, Yusuf, Nesthetic, and OC Slim. So I think that depending on the expansion, so they're gonna keep Mama, Crush, and Yusuf, because Yusuf is I know he was an all defensive player last year. I think he was an all team player this year, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously Mama is an MVP. He's the season 2 MVP. Mama has probably one of the best resumes in the 2K League. Has never missed the playoffs. No one can say that besides Mama in these 3 years of the 2K League. He's the only team to ever do that. And you have Crush, obviously all defensive player, just a great overall player. He's proved himself in this league. He was, projected to be a great player, and that's what he ended up to be. Yusuf, obviously, is another guy that, this guy can play on the pick and roll, regardless of, being a power forward. He's jumping on the pick and roll, and he's just a great defensive player. Seam, obviously, Seam's had a very good performance in this league. He's been a great shooting guard. it's going to be tough because I think that there's a chance, depending on the expansion teams, that we see Team go. But if Team doesn't go in the expansion, I think that what's going to happen is they're going to bring him back, and that's going to be their fourth. I think that, unfortunately, for OC Slim and the Aesthetic, OC Slim, I think, was more of just, so they could trade for Mama. I don't think he was meant to just come to the city and be a part of them. I think he was just more of just so they can do the trade. And then you have Aesthetic, who is I think he's a great guard. He just never got a chance to go out there because obviously Bash showed out, did a good job. So I think that the four people they retain is Mama, Crush, Yusuf, and Seam. And I think it's that simple for the Kings. We're going to jump to Knicks Gaming. So Knicks Gaming, a lot of you guys might be kind of scratching your head on some things maybe on my predictions. Maybe not. So I think they are going to bring back Duck. I mean, obviously, I think Duck had a good year. I don't think the Knicks were anything crazy. They've actually had their best year in their franchise history for the regular season. Obviously, they've won a championship, but they never had a positive record. But I think the Knicks. This was a good year for the Knicks. Obviously, it wasn't a playoff year, but still a good year for them, in my opinion. But I think you bring back Malik, who just probably had one of the best years in his 2K League career so far. You bring back. So this is where I think a lot of people might disagree with me. I think you bring back Truth, and you don't bring back Rob. Yeah, I know a lot of people might disagree with that. I don't think Rob was that good. I think Rob had a very bad year. A lot of centers in the 2K League have actually mentioned Rob. No hate against Rob. Rob's a good guy. I think Rob's still a good center. But I don't think Rob... I think Rob was a big issue in their entire defense. Him and Rim, I think, was the biggest issue for this team. I think that's why they're not going to bring back Rim or Rob. I think you bring back Haza. The reason why I think you bring back Haza... obviously, in the past, I think they brought back Haza more of a marketing standpoint versus a player standpoint. I think that Haza is one of the only international players in the league. I think that it's really important that 2K League has that, and I think that New York is really big on that. So I think that this is obviously not more. I know some people are going to look at me with this disgruntled look and be like, "Why would you bring back Haza over Rob?" My reasoning is more. I think it's on the marketing side of things. I think that you still need to keep an international player in the league. It's important that we have that person, I think, in New York City, because I think that New York, if any place that the best place for an international player to be is in New York City, in my opinion. I think it's just one of those organizations that I think that is not it's not a bad place to have an international player. It's kind of hard to explain. Like I said, I think that there is a good possibility that they do bring back Rob. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they let go of Haza, but at the same time, I think that I think that the New York franchise overall just likes Haza. I think it's not going to be more based on skill. It's going to be more based on relationship and personality in that situation. But either way, I think Rob's a good player. Rob can either end up here or I think he could get taken by another team. But like I said, I think these are the four guys to get taken and brought back to New York for next season. The next team I'm going to talk about is the only team I think that's only going to retain two people. Now, Lakers Gaming has probably had... It's very bad. They're one of the other organizations that have never won anything inside of a tournament. Lakers Gaming needs something to change. And I think it's time that we let Sav take over this franchise. I think they're going to let go of Moody. Moody barely got to play this year. He was a six-man. Vert didn't play very well. Vert had a very low shooting percentage based off of what I saw. Taktuk didn't really get to play the position that he's actually known for and what he plays, but Taktuk still performed at the center position, in my opinion. He kind of just did what he could. And then obviously you have Kev, who he played okay. I think that they bring back Sav and Taktuk. I think that Taktuk still has a lot to show. I think that overall, Sav was a great point guard, regardless of what I've said about him. He still was a good point guard for them. He was one of their better players. I don't think Sav had much to work with. I think they're kind of going to listen to Sav a lot on what he wants. I think this franchise is going to build around him. There's really there's only one way for them to go, and that's up, because this franchise has just been at the bottom of the league for 2 years in a row now. So they definitely, this is an organization that doesn't like to lose. If anyone knows about the Lakers organization, this is an organization, doesn't matter what it is, they want to win. So I think you're going to see big changes this year, in this offseason for the Lakers. So, like I said, I think they're the only team that's going to go for the minimum of retaining 2 people. So the next team I'm going to jump into is Magic Gaming. Magic Gaming, they obviously just did their retainment. Actually, I have to pull that up. Apologies, guys. They actually just announced their retainment. Fun fact. I did this literally just a couple minutes ago. 1 second. So they actually brought back Reed, May, and DT, which makes sense. Yeah, well, so my thing about the DT situation, and I think DT is one of the best pick and roll defenders. I probably would have brought back DT. They actually just announced theirs, just like an hour ago. I probably would have brought back DT. I was in a tough predicament because my thing is, it's like the Magic game. There's so many people on this Magic team that you have to bring back, and it's like I'm not really sure who you bring back. Like I would probably trade out DT for Perfusion, but at the same time, it's like we didn't. Perfusion started kind of showing up near the end of the year, but I probably would bring back DT. I was kind of just predicting based off of DT not playing much. Obviously, he had to go away for personal reasons that like I said, I don't really know what they were about, but. He had stuff that was going on, so it was kind of tough. Magic Gaming, this was a team that I was really stuck on. I had no idea who they were going to retain because I think that all their players on this roster are good players. Obviously, bring back Toxic because of Toxic's built-up reputation. I think that he's more valuable than just being a player. He's more of a content side of things, too. I think you have to bring him back. But they actually just announced theirs. They brought back Reed, DT, and May. Which, makes sense. But at the same time, I think you still need to bring back. They're going to bring back Toxic after the expansion, just because Toxic is more valuable than just being just a guy who's good at the game. He's overall, I think, very important for the growth of the league, and I think you want to have that guy a part of your organization. The next team I'm going to go into is Mavs GG. So Mavs GG. This is a team that there's a lot of rumors around trades around Dimes. I don't know if it's all true, but there's been talks about Dimes being moved somewhere. I don't know if that will happen. I doubt it happens. But there's a chance. You never know. So with this roster, you have Sherm, who I think, he did his role at the point. He played a role player point guard position, which in my opinion was very interesting because most point guards were out here scoring a high amount of points and he wasn't. So he wasn't playing like the normal point guard. I think he had a lot of assists. He was more of like a passing point guard than a scoring point guard. So you had Dimes, who was, obviously he was one of the high scoring shooting guards, kind of like a point guard in a way if you think about it. He still, he played on the shooting guard position. I think he did a very good job. You still bring back Dimes. That's that's your franchise guy. That's your first pick. You're going to bring him back regardless. You bring back Pete again, and then you bring back Spartan. I think that Spartan, he did his thing. I think that he deserves to be back. I've heard some issues with Mo. Obviously, Mo was a six-man. Mo had a lot of things going on. They didn't start Mo for a while. Mo was riding the bench. There was some issues. I know that there's been some internal things about Mo that have just been problems over the years between. I just don't think that they bring back Mo again. I just don't think it's working. Mo, I think can get picked up by another team, but I just don't see Mo coming back to the Mavs. Sleeties, like I said, Sleeties is a close friend of Dimes, but when it comes down to it, they have to retain 4 people. I think that they're going to bring back Spartan, they're going to bring back Dimes, and they're going to bring back Sherm, and they're going to bring back Pete. Dimes, Sherm, and Pete are going to be prior to the expansion. It makes total sense to do that. There's no other way I see it happening. And then I think there's possibly they don't do 4, but I definitely think they bring back Spartan. They just had a really good year. Maybe they didn't get to that level they want to be, but they're still having good years. They're still having good seasons, and that's 2 years in a row they've made playoffs now. So I think that just they're missing that one last piece. That's all it is for them. So I think that this is how Map GG goes. I don't see any other way. The Nets is another. The Nets is up next up. This is really interesting because obviously they just did a lot of trades. They traded for Jinsanity, and they traded for Lav, Joel, whatever you want to call him. He was on their roster last season. Season 2, whatever you guys want to refer to. So Jinsanity was a great pickup. I don't know how they're going to bring back Lav, because maybe they're thinking maybe they bring back Lav over Wavy. I'm not sure. I'm so confused on this. Like, I'm actually very, very confused on what they're going to do, because they're going to bring back Chalk, obviously. They just traded all Chalk's guys away, so maybe there's something going on where the Chalk is not a part of the team. I don't know. But they just traded away all of Chalk's guys who were part of the team. So it was kind of interesting. They kind of cleaned house. Randoms was one of the better locks. I think Randoms, you bring him back. He was doing a very good job last year. Maybe instead of Wavy, they bring back Lav. I'm not sure. I really am kind of just over the fence on that. Wavy didn't do bad, but he never stuck out to me. So maybe they did that trade to bring back Wavy. I mean, to bring back Lav. I'm not sure. And then Jinsanity. I think Jinsanity, he kind of had like an off time over there with the Warriors near the end of the year. Kind of picked it back up at power forward. But Jin's not a bad move. He's been a great player in the league so far. Really, really, I think that he's someone that can play in multiple positions. A good pickup in my opinion, and someone I think that will definitely be retained prior to the expansion. So I think it's going to be Chalk, Randoms, and Jinsanity that get picked up prior, and maybe Wavy or Lav that get picked up after the expansion. But it's really tough for this team right now, in my opinion, because I really don't know what they do for Lav. I mean, you traded for Lav, so it makes sense to bring him back. So I think that maybe they let go of Wavy instead of bringing him back. But we're going to move on. We're going to go to Pacers Gaming. Pacers Gaming is another team that, like I said, they've had a lot of issues at the point guard position. They've never actually had a true point guard. It's tough because, they've had high picks to get these guards, and it just never works out. But I think that we're going to see when it comes to retainment, they're going to bring back Nate, they're going to bring back Wolf, they're going to bring back Swizzerk, and then they're going to bring back Jomar after the expansion. I think if I was an expansion team, I would take Jomar. In my opinion, I would take Jomar. If I'm in an organization, I would definitely take that chance. Jomar really showed out this year. He looked to be one of the better players on Pacers Gaming this year. And I just think that you go and you take Jomar if they let him go out there. But I think that Bobby Buckets and Bo Ohio, maybe they bring back Bo Ohio. I'm not sure. B Ohio, sorry. Some say, I don't know why people got me saying Bo Ohio. B Ohio. I just think that he wasn't in a good system. It just didn't work out. I think that the Pacers are going to look a different direction at point guard, and I think they let him go. But I think that there's a chance that B Ohio gets taken in the expansion. But who knows? Like I said, there's going to be a lot of guards coming up in the next draft, and guard's going to be one of the least needed positions, so guys can get away with taking point guards really late in the draft as well. But I think that they're going to move on from him, and this is who they're going to retain. Pistons GT. Pistons GT is my next team up. So, like I said, guys, as I see some people write in the chat, PGs are tough for Season 4. I just think that it's the least needed position coming up in the draft, too. We have to realize that every team basically has a point guard already. I already went through most of the teams. Most of these teams aren't going to need a point guard coming into next year. So it might be smart not to take a point guard in the top picks unless he's that skillful of a player. I wouldn't take a point guard high. If I have like a top 3 pick, maybe you take a point guard. But anywhere from like 3 to like anywhere after 3, you're probably taking the best available player, most talented player. Just depends. It depends what you need. the hottest commodity is going to be like that lockdown and that shooting guard position. You're probably going to need that a lot, and a lot of teams aren't going to take that. They're not going to retain that, and it's going to be kind of really hard in the draft because you're going to have a lot of people taking these role player positions. So the next team up is Pistons GT. Pistons GT, a lot of people are kind of like trying to wrap their head around what's going to happen. Obviously, Joseph Truth kind of put out a message, kind of accepting that this is probably going to be. I think I spelled Joseph wrong. Yes, I did. Whatever. But Joseph the Truth, I kind of put out a message, pretty much saying that he knows he's not going to be retained. This team, obviously, like a pro, didn't really get much of a chance to show out his skill. What do you think about the European players and their chance? I'll speak on that in a minute. Let me finish the Pistons and then I'll talk about that. So Joseph the Truth, I don't think is going to come back. Like a pro, didn't really get much of a chance to show out what he can do. I don't think that this was just. He just doesn't have that big enough of a voice. We don't. Maybe like a pro finds a way to get back, but there's a good chance that this was his last chance to get into the league. It's hard. He's been in the league for 3 years now, but it might be the end of that run. I don't know. Maybe he finds a way during pre-draft, but it's not looking good for like a pro. Demon JT, Dev Goss, Charger, and Ramo. I think these are all possible people that can get retained on this team. JT obviously didn't have the craziest year, but also he's still kind of a voice on that team. He's still a leader. I think he's a good player. He just struggles in certain situations. I think that he's not really the true point guard. I think he needs to be on that backseat role. But I think with this team, though, they're probably still going to draft a point guard coming up in the next draft. JT is going to be moved off of that position. That's why I don't know if they would bring back Dev Goss, because Dev Goss is more of a shooting guard. So there's a good chance they don't bring back Dev Goss, and Dev goes out there in the expansion. I think that we're going to see Space Jam 2.0. I think that's what it's going to be. You're going to see JT, Charger, and Ramo. I think it's going to be that simple. And we're just going to see Space Jam in the 2K League. That's all it's going to be there for the Pistons, and I think it's that simple. I think Dev, Dev could definitely be taken back after the expansion from the Pistons, but like I said, I think that they need a lot of change, and I think that they're going to kind of test the water out in the draft before they go and take Dev. So I think that's what the Pistons are going to do. Talking about the European players and their chances, until the 2K League, until regular Pro-Am players are able to play on a daily basis against European players, chances are very hard for guys because, unfortunately, a lot of organizations are ran by either players or players influence a lot of picks, so it's kind of tough. It's not that it's necessarily the right thing. I don't really think it's a good idea to always listen to players, but at the same time, these guys are playing competitively. They are playing against players. I'm not all for picking friends. That's one thing I'm 100% against. I don't like the idea of picking friends. You still have to prove yourself. You still need to prove that you're a good player. Like I said, I'm sure there's some very good players overseas that just haven't gotten that chance. I mean, we're seeing the current NBA. You see Luka, Porzingis. They're obviously great international players. Obviously, Ben Simmons was playing in Australia. I don't know if you guys want to consider an international player. He does well. But there's just so many people that are international that are coming into the current NBA that are great. So I'm sure there's some great international 2K players out there. We just need the 2K to be able to make it to where I don't have to be region-based and I'm able to play against people overseas without having any kind of latency or any type of lag. So until we get to that point, it's going to be very hard, in my opinion, for international people to really prove themselves. I think the 2K League is going to have to do more tournaments and more things to help to where these guys can show their talent, but not against just each other, but showing against the 2K League guys themselves. I think that's the only way it's going to work. Anyway, the next team we're going to go to is Raptors GC. Raptors GC is in a very big predicament because obviously this is the first team to ever go undefeated in 2K League history. Only team to go undefeated, by the way. Greatest regular season record. A lot of things are great about it. They have the MVP, Kenny Got Work. Obviously your guy right here wearing all the Raptors gear, represent. But anyway, like I said, we're going to start with PG, Kenny Got Work. He's obviously going to be retained, guys. He was the MVP. You're going to see Timely and Sick come back. I think those will be those three that they do prior. I think there's a good chance that Reese goes in the expansion because statistically he's one of the better guard, shooting guard, small forward, whatever position you want to put him at. Statistically, his shooting was one of the best in the league. I think there's no reason why he doesn't go in the expansion, but maybe he goes under the radar. I don't know. He is not one of the bigger names, so maybe he doesn't, but he's definitely a great player. I would definitely add him to my roster if I could, if I was an expansion team. So if Reese gets taken, I think they go and they just take Jake, and that's who will be their fourth retained player. And I think that these are going to be the four guys they get. I think Reese goes in expansion. If he doesn't, I'd be shocked. And I think that that's going to be the four that they bring back. I think that's pretty simple for them. T-Wolves Gaming is the next team we're going to talk about. So T-Wolves Gaming, you have Bear, J-Money, Saint, JoJo, Feast, Detoxies. I think this team had a very hard time this year. There was a lot of issues. Obviously, Bear was taken off the point guard role at one point during the year, and J-Money was thrown on point guard. Seemed like there was a lot of internal issues going on. I'm not really sure. I don't know everything 100%. But from my standpoint, I think that you're going to see a lot of change, because I think that when it comes to especially someone like Bear is someone that doesn't like to be in those positions. I think that you're going to see some big changes. I think you're going to see Bear obviously come back. He's that heart, the heart and soul of that team, Mr. Untradeable. You have J Money, who obviously he's still that second fiddle to Bear. There's possibility that maybe it doesn't work between Bear and J Money, and we see J Money get traded. Who knows? That's kind of just some things lingering around, but never know. But then you see Feast, who's probably been one of the best power forwards in the league. I think he did a good job at center, despite it not being his position. But Feast overall, though, just a great overall player. There's no reason. Great personality. You got to bring him back. But I think they only bring back 3. I spelled Saint wrong. Damn it. Sorry, guys. I was rushing the typing, but it's whatever. But I just think that they're only going to bring back 3 guys. I think that Saint, there's a chance they do bring back Saint. I'm not sure. I don't think they bring back Detoxies, or JoJo. JoJo hasn't necessarily played himself out of the Timberwolves organization. I just think that it's time for change, and I think they're going to see it. They're going to shop the market. They're going to kind of see. I think they're going to kind of see what they can do in the draft. You're going to see a lot of big changes, but like I said, I just don't see them bring back JoJo, Detoxies. Maybe they bring back Saint, but at the same token, I'm not sure. I don't really have a good reason why they don't bring back Saint. I just don't feel like they're going to bring back Saint. Anyway, I'm going to jump to the next team. It's Warriors Gaming. After this, we have Wizards Gaming, which will be the last team. But let's talk about Warriors Gaming, because this is an organization I think that is one of the smartest organizations in the entire 2K League. A lot of big brains working with this team. So Warriors Gaming has CB13, Beast Move, Gradient, Shuttles, Slaughter, and Uncle Matty. So their strategy basically was to bring in Shuttles. So if Slaughter because Slaughter's getting taken in the expansion, I think they've known that. They know what's going to happen. So they're pretty much preparing themselves for, so they're not centerless coming into the draft next year. So they're going to bring back CB13. They're going to bring back Beast Move. They're going to bring back Gradient, and they're going to bring Shuttles after the expansion, because they know that Slaughter's going to go in the expansion. So then they're going to sacrifice a pick to bring back Shuttles as their center, and that will be their roster. It's simple as that. Smartest move I've probably seen in the entire 2K League. This organization, year in, year out, is just getting better and better, and they're finding ways to really, really, just outsmart everybody in this entire league. So great job by the Warriors here. It's going to be very interesting what they're going to do in the draft. But like I said, this team is already looking good coming into the next season. But this is what I think it's this simple. I think this is what the Warriors will look like next year. So the last team, but not least, the NBA 2K League champions for Season 3 is Wizards DG. I think it's pretty simple. They bring back JBM. JBM had a great he had a great campaign in his rookie year as the point guard for Wizards DG. You got Reese to God, who's been there for years now. He's definitely proven to be a big piece of that team. You're going to bring him back prior to expansion. I think then you bring back Dave Fry. That's the leader. But the issue they face, I think, is between Nudini and Awkward. So depending on the expansion, depending on which one gets taken, I think Nudini will probably get taken. I don't know why I didn't mean to put trade it for next to Nudini. It was I think it was a copy and paste thing I did. I think that was meant to be where Shuttles was, but I copy and pasted it. But whatever. But just awkward. I think there's a chance that he gets taken, but I think Nudini will get taken. Nudini's shown over the years to be he's actually won the most money in 2K League history. He's been one of the most winningest players in 2K League history, and now he has a ring. This guy, his resume is undoubtedly one of the best. Great personality, great overall player. There's no reason why you don't take Nudini in the expansion. But I think that Nudini gets taken, and they bring back Just Awkward, who had a great. He was one of the best shooting defensive, players in the league. He's a lockdown, obviously. He's one of the best shooting lockdowns in the league. He's just a great overall player. It wouldn't be a bad pick to go with him or Nudini, but I think Nudini has a bigger resume and a longer resume and has shown to be consistent over the years, and there's no reason why you wouldn't go with Nudini in the expansion. So I think this is what Wizards CG is going to go through. I think that this is just simple. I think that it makes sense, and just overall, I think that it's just going to be rough for them either way. They're going to lose somebody. Every championship team always loses somebody, and it's probably going to be Nudini this time around. So I'm going to pretty much wrap this up, guys. I really appreciate you guys coming by. Make sure you guys hit that follow button. I really appreciate it. I'm going to upload this to YouTube. It's about 54 minutes, so it's probably going to take a while for me to upload it, and I'm sure some teams are going to release what they are actually doing, but these are just some rough estimates of what I think is going to happen. Obviously, I don't have all the facts of every locker room. I don't know. Maybe there's some things that some teams just feel, they have planned. Maybe I don't know. But overall, I think this is going to be very accurate. I think it's going to be very close. And if you guys haven't checked my YouTube out, it's ESGN2K as well. It's the same as my Twitch. Make sure you guys go check that out. I'm going to drop this video if you guys want to go back and watch it. Also, guys, make sure if you don't already follow this Twitch, it's ESGN2K as well. I'm going to be dropping a couple more things. I'm going to be doing a video about who's made the most money in the 2K League. So I have a salary video I'm going to be working on. If you guys, like I said, if you like this content, you got to follow it. I'll be coming out with more content like this, and I appreciate all you guys watching, and I hope all you guys have a good day. Champ2K out.